Once again, welcome back Clashers to another Builder Hall tutorial. In my last video, I asked you guys to vote for what tutorial you wanted to see next, Archer or Dropship, and Archer tutorial 1, so here it is. For those of you who asked for Dropship, I've already started working on it and it will be coming soon. First, I just want to apologize about my voice and short voice recordings in this video, but I've caught a cold and I'm coughing a lot, so this is the only way for me to record without you hearing me cough all the time. This tutorial will be very different from my other tutorials as the Archer strategy is very different in nature. It is not a 3-star strategy, but a very easy way to get solid 2 stars all the time. I will show you a couple of full attacks, but as it is difficult to see what exactly is going on in Archer replays, and often there will be many things happening simultaneously, I will also break down the attacks into sections and explain different techniques to create the Builder Hall entry, how to take down the Builder Hall with the minimum amount of archers, and how to deploy your archers on surrounding buildings to minimize archer use. Furthermore, I will show you when you can use 50 archers and when you have to bring one camp of bombers, and what happens if you choose the wrong composition. In the attack we're looking at now, I used a technique I like to call the walking bomber entry, which basically means I let a bomber walk from one end of the outer wall with the battle machine as a tank for incoming damage. During the walk, surgical archers are portioned out to the exposed defensive buildings in front of the Builder Hall. This is all done simultaneously to protect the walking bomber and help the battle machine stay alive for longer. But I will explain this further in just a bit. There are a few base designs where you shouldn't use this strategy at all. These are the anti-archer bases. They are easily identified by the Builder Hall position, which will be in the very center of the base and not close to any wall. These bases are rare and not very good, as they are then much easier to take down using other compositions. The base meta right now are bases like the one we're looking at, and they are all good for archer attacks. The results you can expect from these attacks are generally between 61 and 69% 2 stars. But during practice, be ready for 2 stars ending in the 50s until you get the hang of it. The more you practice, the more you'll learn how many archers are needed for certain buildings and in different situations. Now let's have a look at a Mass Archer attack which uses 5 camps of archers and no bombers. The one thing you have to look for before choosing this composition, and this is very important, is if you can manage to breach the wall to the Builder Hall using archers or your battle machine. This can only be done if the inner wall is completely closed. If there aren't any gaps in the inner wall on the sides or hidden passages behind the clock tower, then this composition will fail, as your archer and battle machine will be redirected towards the already open wall sections and you won't be able to take down the Builder Hall. I will show you real quick what that looks like after this attack. When you use this composition, it's important to deploy the wall breaching archer you see here on the right side as early as possible, as it will take some time to breach the wall. While you wait for it, use the time to clear as many buildings outside of the Builder Hall as you can from the sides. Also start working on the buildings reachable from the other side and beware of traps. On buildings that require more than one archer to be destroyed, it's always better to try to deploy the archers from different angles. And there are 2 reasons for this. The first is if there are traps there, you are more likely to lose 1 archer instead of 2. And the second reason is that potential splash damage from the mortar might not be able to damage both of your archers this way. Now that the wall is breached, you need to clear the defensive buildings in front of the Builder Hall. Usually it's 2 archers per cannon, 2 archers per archer tower, and 3 archers for the double cannon. But as you will have to deploy the archers quite far away from these buildings, they will lose some stealth time walking to their target. Also, one thing that's very important is how to handle the guard post troops. These might sneak up on your archers and attract their attention, and if this happens, always keep cool and let them finish their business and walk back to their post. Don't panic and send more of your archers, because this will end in troop error. Your archers will target the guard post troops, but as they can't see your archers, they will walk back inside the base, leaving your archers attacking walls instead until they die. Now when the inner wall is breached and there is a path straight for the Builder Hall, you can send your battle machine to do some damage. It will attract the guard post troops, which will slow it down, But if you activate your battle machine's ability from the appropriate distance, you can make it so that he will be ready to recharge right after the 3 first hits. This way he will survive longer and do more damage on the builder hull. Of course, as it is still protected by the giant cannon, your battle machine will not live for very long. He will, however, give you a good head start on the builder hull, so you can later use fewer archers to finish the job. Alright, so let's have a quick look at what happens when you choose the wrong composition. Here you can see that there is an opening in the inner wall on the left side. This means you will not be able to breach the inner wall from the appropriate angle using archers or the battle machine, as they will be redirected to the open wall section instead. Now there is a way to deal with this even with this composition if you clear the area around the open wall section, but it will require many more archers and end up in a very low % 2-star. The appropriate action here is of course to bring 1 camp of bombers. I sped up this replay because here I really only wanted to show what happens when you try to send your battle machine or archers to breach the inner wall corner. I'll skip the clearing of buildings to the point where I try to send them in so you can see what will happen. Here, the battle machine will detect that there is already an opening within reach and walk there instead. The same goes for any archers deployed from the north, and they will not attack the builder hull but instead go for buildings next to it. So this is why it's important to use a few seconds of scout time to inspect the wall before you choose your composition. Other than that, the mass archers can sometimes be better to use if there are many buildings reachable without the use of bombers. And will sometimes yield a higher percentage than ArchBomb composition. I will now explain the 2 different builder hull entry techniques I use, beginning with the walking bomber. In this particular base, there's actually a hidden passage behind the clock tower which I didn't spot. I'm usually more observant when scouting, but there you have it, it works. If possible, I will begin with the bomber ahead of the battle machine to clear part of the wall before sending him from the builder hull side. This way he is more likely to continue the walk outside the base and not go for the wall. And in this case, it actually saved the entire attack as there was an opening there. As soon as the outside buildings are clear, out goes the surgical archers, 3 for the double cannon and 2 for the archer tower. And as you can see, during an archer attack you never stay idle. If you are waiting for something to finish, use the time to clear buildings in other parts of the base. As you can see, I tried to send archers for that army camp from the other side, but they instead went for the elixir storage, so I quickly changed angle and went from the corner side instead, along with 2 archers for that last defending cannon. Now if this goes as planned, the walking bomber will head for the inner wall corner and open the builder hall entry. However, always keep a spare bomber until the inner wall has been breached. If anything happens to your walking bomber, or if he keeps going along the other side, then it will be very easy to just send a spare as the area is now clear. Now pay attention to this next part. This is how you destroy the builder hall with only 3 archers. 1 archer from one side, quickly followed by 2 archers from the other side. And here's why. At this point, the only thing still defending the builder hall is the giant cannon, and it takes a very long time to reload. You want the lonely archer to be deployed first, because that means it will also be the first visible troop for the giant cannon, giving the other 2 archers a considerable amount of extra time to hit the builder hull. Here's another example of what the walking bomber can look like. The battle machine will tank for the bomber, and once the camps are out of the way, surgical archers are sent out to clear the defenses, making sure they are destroyed before the bomber reaches the inner wall corner. One thing I forgot to mention with the walking bomber entry is how you use the battle machine's ability. In this scenario, it's important to give the bomber as much time as possible. This means don't use the ability like you normally would upon deployment, but instead use it as a way to recharge his life. Otherwise, he would clear the camps very fast and get in range of the defenses sooner, making it more difficult to aim archers for the defenses. But more importantly, in a longer walking bomber entry, the battle machine might get too far ahead of the bomber, leaving it exposed to defenses. The second builder hall entry I'm going to show you is one I call the flying entry, and what I mean by that is everything is done rather quickly to keep your bomber from dying. That does not make it difficult in any way. I usually use this entry technique when there is an open wall section or a hidden passage, because that means the battle machine will enter and die rather quickly. First, if possible, clear the outer buildings on the sides. Then begin by deploying your bomber, and before he is in range of the archer tower, deploy the battle machine to tank. Then, before the battle machine is rerouted to the open wall, send enough archers to take out the defenses, long-ranged archer tower in particular, before the battle machine dies. Otherwise, the archer tower will kill your bomber. If you succeed with this, the bomber will have cleared enough of the outer wall so that you can send another bomber to the inner wall corner. In this particular base, the outer wall was very long, but there are other designs where it's shorter, which usually means you don't even need a second bomber, as the first one will head for the inner corner. If somebody is worried about the amount of archers used here, know that these scenes are from real attacks, and I'm actually deploying archers outside of the screen as well. And all the replay material used in this video are from 2-star attacks with at least 64% destruction, aside from when I showed what happens if you choose the wrong army composition. I'm going to show you one more flying entry on a different design, but where the outer wall was shorter and only one bomber was needed. For some reason, there are a few seconds of lag in the beginning here. Not sure why, but I'm sorry about that. As you can see here, there are 2 openings on the inner wall, making this entry technique the preferred way to go. Same thing is done here. Battle machine is deployed before the bomber is within the long-range archer tower's radius. And just a heads up, you can't view the defense radius in live attacks. This can only be done in replays. But with enough practice, you'll know approximately how far the range is of each defense. Again, make sure you deploy enough archers to take out the defenses before your bomber approaches the inner wall. And there you have it. Flying entry with a single bomber used to breach both layer walls. One last thing I wanted to show you in this tutorial is how you deploy your archers on the surrounding buildings, in particular when there are more than one building reachable from outside of the wall. In this next scene, you're going to see me deploy several archers around the base to target reachable buildings, and at first glance it might look like a random spam, but there is an idea behind all of it that will greatly reduce the amount of archers used, and it's extremely simple to do. Have a quick look at what defenses are guarding the area. In this case, the mortar has pretty much the entire perimeter within its radius. Begin by deploying the first archer at the building with lowest amount of hit points, because it will be the first archer the mortar will target, and it is better that the mortar kills an archer that has already completed its task, giving all your other archers more time to hit their targets. Here's another example of the same thing. Notice that the first archer within the mortar's range was deployed at the elixir collector, and before the mortar shells hit the archer, it has already destroyed the collector. And the archer that is firing at the barracks can now destroy it even though it is visible and within the mortar's range. Also, by deploying your archers separated from each other like this, the mortar splash damage will only be able to hit one of your archers at the same time, and you are much less likely to lose more than one archer to the same trap. Alright folks, that was it for this tutorial. I hope you have learned something new here and that I helped shed some light on how to succeed with archers. I think this strategy is one of the more difficult strategies to copy just by looking at a replay, because there are so many things going on at the same time and there is no way of knowing what goes on in the attacker's head, how they are planning it, and what they would change when the base looks different. As I mentioned earlier, the next tutorial is for different dropship compositions and strategies, but as always, if you have any other suggestions for future videos or questions about the game or my tutorials, you are more than welcome to ask me in the comment section and I'll do my best to help you out. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and thank you for watching.